At the turn of the 21st century, hundreds of students, teachers, and members of the music industry and media were asked to vote on what they thought was the greatest song of the last 100 years. In the top 5 were Otis Redding's Respect, American Pie by Don McLean, and Irving Berlin's classic White Christmas. But topping the list, comfortably beating all others, was Harold Arlen and Yip Harburg's Over the Rainbow, written for the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz. Over the Rainbow is one of the most covered songs of all time. It's been reorchestrated, reimagined and repurposed, and has become, over the near century since its first broadcast, a cultural icon. But despite its current fame, it very nearly didn't see the light of day. This is the story of how Over the Rainbow was written, but also how it was nearly lost to history. The production of MGM's The Wizard of Oz was, to say the least, a fraught process. From the point of purchasing the rights to L. Frank Baum's novel in January 1938 to the film's final release in August 1939, The Wizard of Oz had no fewer than 14 screenwriters, 2 actors for the role of the Tin Man, and an astonishing 5 directors, the last of which, King Vidor, worked on the film for only 10 days. And although there were fewer changes made in the songwriting team, Arlen and Harburg were not the first to be approached. Initially, MGM looked to their own, asking in-house composer and arranger Roger Edens to put together an outline for the musical numbers and to start writing the songs, which he began in earnest in March 1938. Edens mapped out an extensive musical sequence for Munchkinland and started to put together a song for Dorothy to sing in Kansas, taking his cue from the earliest drafts of the screenplay, which all gave Dorothy a musical number before she arrived in Oz. Edens' approach to the song seems completely antithetical to what Arlen and Harburg would eventually produce. There's only one surviving stanza of his lyric, but it gives something away of the aesthetic Edens was aiming for. Mid pleasures and palaces in London, Paris and Rome, there is no place quite like Kansas, and my little Kansas, home sweet home. This feeling of Kansas being Dorothy's true home would be a pervasive force in the development of the story, script and music. But associate producer Arthur Freed wasn't happy with Roger Edens' approach to the Kansas song, and in particular the homespun feeling he was trying to evoke. So, by the end of April 1938, Freed began looking for someone new to write the music and lyrics for the songs of The Wizard of Oz. Enter composer Harold Arlen and lyricist Yip Harburg. By the time Arlen and Harburg were brought into the production, the script had been changed multiple times, but there was a basic structure for the musical numbers in place, put down by Edens, and there was also a rough idea about where Dorothy's Kansas song would come in the story. In a draft of the screenplay by Noel Langley from the 5th of May, we find Dorothy walking along a row of hen roosts with a basket of eggs swinging in her hand and Toto following behind, singing the Kansas song. Arlen and Harburg were presented with a blank canvas for this number. Unlike the more exposition-heavy lemon drop songs of Oz and Munchkinland, as Arlen would later call them, there was a chance with the Kansas song to strike a completely different tone, to make something more serious and introspective, and to try and capture Dorothy's true feelings about her life and her home. The Kansas of Baum's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz is far from the idyllic paradise of Edens' version of the song. Baum describes the landscape as desolate and dark, using the word grey multiple times in the opening chapter to describe both the place and the people. When Dorothy stood in the doorway and looked around, she could see nothing but the great grey prairie on every side. Not a tree nor a house broke the broad sweep of flat country that reached to the edge of the sky in all directions. Once the house had been painted, but the sun blistered the paint and the rains washed it away, and now the house was as dull and grey as everything else. And it was this feeling that Harburg wanted to evoke in his lyrics for the Kansas song. Where Eden's lyrics spoke of the beauty and warmth of Dorothy's home, Harburg's talks about escape and about leaving all the dust and greyness behind. As Harburg said in 1980,
"This particular ballad was a ballad for a little girl who was in trouble, and like all little girls wanted to get away from where she was at. And where was she at? Kansas. A dry, colorless place. She'd never seen anything colorful in her life except the rainbow. Well, where would a little girl like that, not knowing the world, want to go? Over the rainbow, on the other side of the rainbow."
Arlen and Harburg worked on the songs for The Wizard of Oz in May and June of 1938, starting with The Jitterbug, a song that would eventually be cut from the film, and ending with Over the Rainbow. Like all their previous collaborations, they worked in a very methodical way. For each song, Harburg would provide Arlen with a couple of lines of lyrics, a title, an image or a metaphor, which he would use as inspiration to write the melody. Arlen would then pass the music back to Harburg, who would finally add lyrics on top.
"I could while away the hours, conferring with the flowers."
And for every song in The Wizard of Oz, they went through this process: image, melody, lyrics. But when they got to Dorothy's Kansas song, Arlen was stuck. He'd been given a single line by Harburg, which took its cue from the dull, lifeless version of Kansas from Baum's novel. Over the rainbow is where I want to be, but the melody just wasn't coming.
We had finished most of the songs, all of the songs, but the one for Judy in Kansas, the one for Dorothy, and I knew what I wanted. Arthur Freed couldn't understand what I was worried about. Most people don't understand what you're worried about because they think you do this and out it comes. But when you have to labor, most writers don't like that. It's nice to be gentle about getting at the piano and, fooling around a little while and coming up with an idea, but when it doesn't come, it becomes one of those things that bug you.
But Arlen had a sudden burst of inspiration in an unusual setting.
I said to Mrs. Arlen, let's go to Grauman's Chinese. I said, you drive the car. I don't feel too well right now. I wasn't thinking of work. I wasn't conscious of thinking of work. I just wanted to relax. And as we drove, on Sunset, I said, pull over, please. And she knew what I meant. And we stopped, and I really don't know why, bless the muses. And I took out my little piece of manuscript and put down what you know now as Over the Rainbow.
Harburg then took Arlen's melody and added lyrics, but struggled himself to find the right words for the octave leap that began the song.
He gave me a tune with those first two notes, and I tried, I'll go over the rainbow, someday over the rainbow, the other side of the rainbow. I had difficulty coming to the idea of somewhere. For a while, I just thought I would leave those first two notes out. It was a long time before I came to somewhere over the rainbow.
Despite the difficulties encountered by both composer and lyricist, Over the Rainbow was finally complete around the middle of June 1938 and was put into the screenplay for the film by the end of June. But the idea was not just to use this song for the Kansas scene at the beginning. From a memo released on the 29th of June by executive producer Mervyn Leroy's assistant, we know that there were multiple reprisals of the song planned. Once as Dorothy lands in Munchkinland, another in the witch's castle after Dorothy is captured, and a final time at the very end of the film. But the second reprisal in the witch's castle is the only one to have been recorded.
Someday I'll wake and rub my eyes.
This is Judy Garland singing on set, accompanied live by Roger Edens. But as you'll know, this, along with all other reprisals of the song, never appeared in the film. After the soundtrack recording was done, after multiple changes in director, and after filming was eventually wrapped in June 1939, the producers had a problem. The picture was just too long. It ran to 2 hours, half an hour longer than they had intended, and so drastic cuts were needed. The Jitterbug song was the first to go. Next, the dance sequence that was planned for the Scarecrow song was removed. And finally, every planned reprisal of Over the Rainbow was axed. But the producers felt that this wasn't enough. In a preview of the film on June 16, 1939, Over the Rainbow was cut completely from the film. Several executives, including studio chief Louis B. Mayer, thought the song slowed down the pacing at the beginning of the picture, that it wasn't appropriate for a little girl to sing in a barnyard, and that it would go over the heads of the target audience. What followed was a desperate scramble by Harburg and Arlen to get the song back in the film.
Harold and I just went crazy. We knew this was the ballad of the show. Good God, this was the number we were depending on. And we decided to take action. We went to the front office, we went to the back office, we pleaded, we cried, we tore our hair. There wasn't a god around who could help us until finally Arthur Freed realized the value of the song, went to Louis B. Mayer, pleaded with him. L.B. Mayer was very nice with Arthur Freed and said, "Oh well, let the boys have the damn song. Put it back in the picture. It can't hurt."
Whether or not this dramatic retelling by Harburg is entirely accurate isn't clear, but what is clear is that it was Arthur Freed who got the song reinstated. And so, Over the Rainbow, now one of the most famous songs ever written, made it into The Wizard of Oz. When audiences saw this film in 1939, it's difficult to imagine what they must have felt hearing Arlen's music and Harburg's lyrics for the first time.
Skies are blue,
Sung as it is in such an astonishingly beautiful way by a young Judy Garland.
that you dare to dream.
In the end, we only hear the song twice in its full form, once sung at the beginning and then as an orchestral rendition right at the end, both times in Kansas. In the final moments of the film, Dorothy speaks about how Kansas was really the place that she wanted to be all along, her home sweet home.
Toto, we're home, home.
This seems to recall the tone of Roger Eden's song more than Arlen and Harburg's, but underscoring this scene, we don't hear Eden's melody, but instead we hear Arlen's, we hear Over the Rainbow. Kansas hasn't changed from the beginning. The place is still dull and dark, filmed in sepia tones, and Dorothy is still stuck in a place where she feels unwanted. The dialogue might be trying to tell us one thing, but the music seems to be telling us something else. Dorothy still wants to escape, to find happiness. She still hopes that she will find a place where she belongs. And I think this is the reason why this song has endured. It's the message that keeps this song alive. The idea that despite the bleak and grey world that may surround you, there is a place where you can be who you want to be. A place where you can be loved. Hi everyone, thank you for watching. I'm so pleased that this video has been sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes for learning new skills, developing your creativity, and sparking a passion. There are multiple class topics for you to explore, including classes on film scoring, music theory, and a topic that would have been incredibly useful for me when I was starting out on YouTube, video editing. I've particularly loved watching Marques Brownlee's Skillshare original, YouTube Success, Script, Shoot and Edit with MKBHD. I've learned so much from his process, and in particular, as we both use Final Cut Pro, the way he edits his videos. His are some of the highest quality videos on YouTube, so to be able to learn so much from him in this course has been amazing. Skillshare is made specifically for learning, and premium classes are being added all the time. And if you'd like to sign up, the first 1,000 people to click on the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare, so you can start exploring your creativity straight away. See you next time.